Yo, do you see this right here? Baby, this is not a lawsuit. This is a full-blown federal forensic excavation of a marriage. Cardi B just walked into a federal courthouse, slapped down a brand new complaint dated May 6, 2026, and said the quiet part out loud, "If you won't pay me, I'm coming for the man you've been hiding behind." Y'all, I have read every single page of this filing, every transfer, every dissolved LLC, every house flip back and forth like a Sunday hot potato game at a family cookout, and let me tell you something, Tasha K and her husband Cheick Ndikibe were not just dodging this debt. They were running a two-person magic act. And the curtain just got ripped down. So pull up a chair, get your tea, lock the door, mute your group chat, because the receipts I have today are going to make you sit up straight. We're going to walk through how a YouTube blogger allegedly built a husband-shaped shield around $4 million and why that shield just turned into a target painted on his back. Let me set the table real quick for the people in the cheap seats. Back in 2019, Cardi sued Tasha K for defamation. The claims Tasha put on the internet about Cardi were not the regular gossip blog kind of shade. We're talking allegations about drugs, allegations about diseases, allegations about prostitution, the kind of things that follow a woman's name around forever if a court doesn't say, absolutely not. And Cardi went up there and she said absolutely not. In 2022, a jury looked at the evidence, looked at Tasha, looked at Cardi, and said, baby, you owe this woman roughly $3.8 million. That's not a typo. 3.8. With a B for Barty. Now here's where the story gets cute. Tasha K, instead of writing the check, decided to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2023. And by 2025, the bankruptcy court confirmed a repayment plan that dropped that number down to $1.2 million spread over 5 years. One condition. One little condition. Stop talking about Cardi and anybody connected to Cardi. The judge basically handed Tasha a discount coupon for her own debt and said, all you have to do is shut your mouth on the internet for 60 months. Easiest assignment in the world. Quietest gig she could have ever booked. And what did Tasha do? She violated that order at least 25 times. 25. That we know about. The court order itself lists YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, and a whole radio interview on The Morning Hustle. Baby, this woman didn't just violate an order, she went on tour. A multi-platform, multi-state Keep Cardi in My Mouth world tour, and I doubt very seriously she was doing those appearances for free, because nobody puts their entire bloodline in financial debt out of the goodness of their heart. And here's the part that takes the cake. The agreement she signed covered Cardi's entire family tree. Her children. Her husband Offset. Stefan Diggs, who the judge specifically named in the order, by the way. Her siblings. Her parents. Aunts, uncles, cousins, second cousins, the play cousins you only see at funerals, everybody was covered. So when Tasha got on the internet and started shading Hennessy, started shading Offset, started insinuating that medical records protected by HIPAA might belong to Cardi's sister, every single keystroke was a violation. And the judge said it plain. The violation is complete the moment you hit publish. Deleting the video later does not unring the bell. It doesn't matter if you took it down in 12 seconds. The court already saw it, screenshotted it, archived it, and put it in a folder labeled Exhibit A through Z. Now Tasha's lawyers walked in there with a defense that, I'm not going to lie to you, made me lean back in my chair and squint at the screen. They said, and I'm paraphrasing, well, Your Honor, our client had a First Amendment right to say what she said. And the judge looked at that argument the way your grandmother looks at you when you tell her you don't want her potato salad. She rejected it on sight. The judge said, ma'am, this is not a free speech debate. The moment that bankruptcy plan was confirmed on March 4, 2025, the agreement stopped being a contract and became a binding court order. The only question in front of me is, did you follow the order, yes or no? And the answer is no. So the court found Tasha K in civil contempt, ordered her to remove the violating content immediately, ordered her to stop posting about Cardi and the family, and ordered her to pay Cardi's attorney's fees. Cardi's lawyers now have 21 days to file an affidavit showing exactly what they spent. Tasha has 14 days to object. The court approves the final number. Then Tasha has 28 days to write the check. But wait. The judge wasn't done. He also sanctioned Tasha's own attorneys under Bankruptcy Rule 9011 because they filed legal arguments with citation errors and no basis in existing law. The penalty? 10% of whatever Cardi's attorney fees end up being, paid directly to Cardi, by the lawyer, with the same 28-day deadline. Y'all, Tasha's own lawyer is now financially on the hook for representing her badly. That's not just a loss in court. That's a loss that follows you back to the office. So I know you're sitting there thinking, okay, but where does the husband come in? Buckle in, because this is the part nobody else is breaking down properly. I read this filing 3 times to make sure I had it right, and what Cardi's team is alleging is essentially a 2-track laundering operation that happened in slow motion right in front of everybody. Track 1, the business. Tasha K's company was called Kebe Studios LLC. Georgia entity. Tasha was the registered owner. Between 2019 and 2023, Cardi's lawyers say that company pulled in over $1 million in YouTube revenue. That's the engine that pays the bills. That's the cash machine. And what happened in September of 2022? According to the lawsuit, the entire business, the revenue, the brand, the channel infrastructure, the whole thing was transferred to a different company called Yelen Entertainment. Owned by who? Her husband Cheick Ndikibe. And what did Yelen Entertainment pay Tasha K personally for this multi-million-dollar business? Zero. Zip. Nothing. Not a single dollar. Not a courtesy receipt. Not a symbolic $1 transaction the way a smart person would have done it. Then Kebe Studios got dissolved entirely. So on paper, the company that owed Cardi B almost $4 million suddenly had no assets, no income, no employees, and no existence. Convenient, right? Almost like somebody planned it. Track 2, the personal income. Cardi's legal team alleges that Cheick took Tasha's personal earnings and rerouted them through Yelen's bank account so that any garnishment order Cardi's lawyers tried to enforce would hit empty pockets. They removed Tasha's name from authorized signers on certain accounts. They stopped direct payments to Tasha. In the language of the filing, every dollar that should have flowed to Tasha was made to flow to Cheick first, then quietly slipped back to Tasha under the table, allegedly. Meanwhile, the federal courts are looking at Tasha's bank statements and seeing a $1,000 balance and going, where did $4 million go? And Tasha herself helped Cardi's case more than any private investigator ever could. She got on radio and said, and I quote, "Cardi didn't drain me. This case was meant to drain me financially and it did not." She went on the morning hustle and laughed about her $20,000 a month payment plan like it was a Netflix subscription. She said, "Do I look like I'm struggling? I got a whole team of entourages." She joked that her husband was her CFO. She told the story about Chase Bank refusing to release the negative $4 million levy because they didn't want to eat the loss, so they let her keep the $1,000 in the account. And then, wait for it, she said she took that $1,000 out and gave it away to a stranger so she could do a feel-good moment at her show in Cleveland. Baby, you cannot get on the radio talking about how you're handing out money like Oprah while simultaneously telling a federal judge that you're broke. Pick a lane. The receipts are recording. So when Cardi heard Tasha bragging like that, Cardi did exactly what any hustler with a winning lawyer team would do. She said, "Oh, you're not drained? Then write the check. Today." And when Tasha turned around and said in court, "I have no money," Cardi said, "Then I'll find it." And what she found is the husband. Let's talk about the house, because the house is the smoking gun. Lawrenceville, Georgia. 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, 5,000 square feet. Sits on a full basement, backs up to the Collins Hill Golf Course, with a lake view for free. Tasha and Cheick bought it together in June 2020 for $380,000. After Cardi won the original judgment, they had to downsize and move out. So they did what normal couples do, they listed it for rent at $5,000 a month on July 3rd. Then on March 19th, Tasha posted the home for sale herself, asking $875,000. Beautiful listing. 6 bedrooms, 4 baths, fully renovated last September, sitting on a golf course and a lake. Collins Hill School District. The caption literally read, "Tasha K's Georgia estate is officially on the market." And then, allegedly, instead of selling that house to an actual buyer with an actual mortgage and an actual check, Tasha K sold the house to her own husband. Cheick became the sole owner of a property he already lived in with the woman he was already married to. That is not a sale. That's a name change with extra steps. That is a magic trick where the rabbit and the magician are the same person and the hat doesn't even exist. Cardi caught wind of it, jumped on the internet, and said, "Look what your mouth has caused. You had to move out of your house. And now I'm about to take your house. You wanted to mention takeoff? Now I'm about to take your house, you cockatoo." And yes, she called Tasha a cockatoo on the public timeline, on a Sunday, in the year of our Lord 2026. That's how confident Cardi was that the house transfer was about to be unwound. Then Tasha did something that, in hindsight, looks like one of the worst PR decisions in modern internet history. She started a GoFundMe. She told her followers, the famous winos, that if 100,000 of them sent her $40 each, she could clear the debt and beat Cardi forever. Even Nicki Minaj allegedly chipped in. And the result? She fell $3,985,000 short of her goal. The winos looked at gas prices, looked at their own grocery bills, looked at Tasha laughing on the radio about her CFO husband, and collectively decided, "Sister, you're entertaining, you're funny, but you're not $4 million funny, and we are not financing your belly ring rebuttal." Especially after Cardi B casually mentioned on the internet that her tour cost her $35 million to produce, that she spent $450,000 on a chain, that her car costs around $500,000, and that she dropped $20,000 on a belly ring. 2 belly rings, actually. The audience did the math instantly. They were not about to crowdfund a transfer of wealth from working people earning $15 an hour to a millionaire blogger so a different millionaire could get another belly ring. Now here's where the unique angle I'm pulling out today gets interesting, and this is what nobody else is connecting. Forget the lawsuit for a second. Forget the GoFundMe. Look at the architecture of what Tasha and Cheick allegedly built, and tell me it doesn't look exactly like a small-time version of every offshore asset protection scheme rich people use when they're trying to dodge a judgment. Same playbook. Same moves. Just smaller scale and visible on Instagram. Step 1, own the cash-generating business in your own name while business is good. Step 2, when trouble hits, transfer the business to a spouse-owned entity for $0. Step 3, dissolve the original entity so nobody can pierce it later. Step 4, reroute personal income through the new entity. Step 5, quietly transfer the real estate to the spouse so it's no longer in the debtor's name. Step 6, show up to court and tell the judge you're broke. Step 7, show up on the radio and laugh about how broke you aren't. That's the entire shield. It's called fraudulent transfer in legal language, and the federal bankruptcy code has an entire section dedicated to clawing those transfers back. The court can look at a transfer made within 4 years of the debt, and if it was made for less than reasonably equivalent value, the court can void it. Not Tasha has to pay it back. Void it. As in, legally, the transfer never happened. The house comes back into the estate. The business comes back into the estate. Cardi B gets her hands on the assets like the husband shield never existed in the first place. So that's why Cardi suing Cheick isn't a desperation move. It's the move every restructuring lawyer in the country was waiting for her to make. The lawsuit specifically alleges that Yelen Entertainment is the legal successor of Kebe Studios, meaning whatever Kebe owed, Yelen now owes too, because they're effectively the same operation wearing a fake mustache. If Cardi's team proves that, and based on the timeline they've laid out, it's hard to see how they don't, then Yelen Entertainment's accounts, contracts, and revenues all become collectible. The house comes back on the table. And remember those personal income reroutes? Those become recoverable too. We're not talking about Tasha owing Cardi anymore. We're talking about Tasha and Cheick jointly owing Cardi, with property and bank accounts on the line, and the original $4 million judgment back in full force because the discounted bankruptcy plan got blown up the moment the contempt order landed. And here's my hot take, the one I haven't seen anybody else say out loud. If Tasha and Cheick were serious about pulling this off, the play wasn't to sell the house to him for nothing. The play was a fake legal divorce on paper, separation of marital assets through a court-approved settlement that creates an actual legal record, then the husband acquires the house through the divorce decree, not through a Sunday afternoon deed transfer that screams, "We did this in a panic." That's how the people who actually shield assets for a living do it. They don't transfer for $0. They generate paperwork that creates the appearance of arm's-length transactions. Tasha didn't do that. She did the cheap version. She did the version you do when you watched one YouTube video on asset protection and thought you had it figured out. And now a federal judge is about to take that whole shield apart piece by piece. Now while all of that is cooking, let me bring you to side dish number 1 because the kitchen is full today. Chef Mila, otherwise known as Chef Mila, is back on the internet. Remember, she said her last post was going to be her last post. Bless her heart. She lied. She jumped back online and posted private text messages between herself, Stefon Diggs, and Cardi B's hair braider Cheick Charles, trying to prove that Cheick Charles got on the stand and lied for Stefon Diggs in a criminal trial. Mila wrote, and I quote, "Don't let the fake innocent immigrant talk fool y'all. You also a liar that knows that man cheats on and treats your friend and I, Cardi B, so bad. You love your clients, I ate what you be doing." Translation, Mila is accusing Cheick Charles of being financially compromised because she does Stefon Diggs's hair and gets paid for it. Then she says Cheick Charles owes her between $1,200 and $1,400 from a vacation they took together, and that's why this whole pop-off is happening. Y'all, the hair braider and the chef went on vacation together, fell out over a $1,400 tab, and now we're entering Stefon Diggs' trial part 2 by way of Venmo receipts. The friendship pipeline is wild this year. Mila then goes on to say, "You sent them videos and photos saying nothing was wrong with me, that I was regular. I called you while I was in the kitchen at 4:30. I never called you in the kitchen. Yet you sit up there and had me meet him, past all these messages. So this whole time you never mentioned any of this. This is so effed up. You know he effing did it and him trying to give me $100K to recant my statement with that BS letter his agent wrote and sent you. Whole time you played me too." And Cheick Charles, calm as Sunday morning, hits her back with, "Hi Milan. I was at work and now seeing your message. If you want to have a conversation, we can. I don't have Cash App." She can send via Venmo or Cheick Charles. What you said doesn't warrant a rebuttal. That's your feelings about the situation and that's your perspective. The last we spoke and you were venting, I did tell you I was asked to testify by his defense. Translation, Cheick Charles is unbothered, Cheick Charles is at work, Cheick Charles is not arguing with you on a Tuesday. And in my professional opinion as a person who has been on the internet since hieroglyphics, Cheick Charles is absolutely right not to engage, because what Chef Mila is doing is not venting. She's fishing. She's trying to bait Cheick Charles into saying something on the record that she can recycle into a civil lawsuit against Stefon Diggs. Remember, the first trial against Stefon Diggs was a criminal case. That one is over. But the civil door is still open, and a civil lawsuit doesn't need proof beyond a reasonable doubt, it needs preponderance of the evidence, which is a much lower bar. So every text she sends Cheick Charles is a hook in the water hoping a juicy quote bites. If I were Cheick Charles, I'd block her on every platform including LinkedIn, mute her on group chats, and go on about my hair braiding life. And if I were Cardi, who has publicly called Cheick Charles family adjacent, I'd pick up the phone and say, "Sis, please. Stop typing back. Your silence is the entire defense." Side dish number 2, Cheyenne Bryant. Now, if you've been paying attention, Cheyenne stepped into a hornet's nest when people started questioning whether she's actually a doctor of psychology. And right on cue, what has she been doing for the last few weeks? She's been incorporating God into every single interview, leaning hard into scripture, Jeremiah 29 verse 11 on her tongue every Sunday, telling women that with or without a degree God manifests the desires of your heart. Listen, the message is beautiful. The pivot is suspect. Because the same way Tasha K allegedly built a husband shield around her finances, Cheyenne Bryant is allegedly building a faith shield around her credentials. Watch closely. She is going to lean on the title of doctor because of an honorary doctorate she received on April 12, 2025, from Harvest Christian University Royal School in Dallas, Texas. Same school that has handed out honorary doctorates to Busta Rhymes, Tank, T.I., Tamika, Tiny, Cottle, Cedric the Entertainer, Johnny Gill, Ralph Tresvant, Dame Dash, Ruben Studdard, Michael Irvin, Dave Hollister, Carl Thomas, and posthumously to Bernie Mac, the Notorious B.I.G., and even Malcolm X. So if you're keeping score at home, Cheyenne Bryant and Malcolm X are technically alumni of the same institution. They graduated on the same day. They are, in the eyes of that particular registrar, classmates. Wow. The class photos must be wild. Now, just to be precise, Harvest Christian University Royal School does claim accreditation through the Transnational Association of Christian Colleges and Schools, and it leans heavily on what it calls Royal Accreditation through the Kingdom of Hawaii Royal Accreditation Commission. But its public recognition is largely tied to its honorary celebrity doctorates rather than rigorous academic programs. Translation: yes, having that honorary doctorate does technically give Cheyenne a fig leaf to keep using "doctor" in front of her name, but no, it is not the same as a clinical psychology degree from an accredited university where you actually do supervised clinical hours, residency, and licensure exams. It's like calling yourself a chef because somebody gave you an apron with your name on it at a barbecue. And Tank, bless him, defended his own honorary doctorate in a video where he said, "I respect the process of you going to school. But you got to respect almost 30 years in the field. Don't discredit that. People go to school to get the job I had since high school. There are only about 10 of us in history that have this. Tank, sweetheart. There are not 10 of you. Aretha Franklin has 13 honorary doctorates by herself. Aretha got hers from Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and Berklee College of Music. Stevie Wonder has 7, from Fordham, Rutgers, Howard, Wayne State and Northwestern. Missy Elliott has 2, from Berkeley and Norfolk State. Hundreds of black musicians have honorary doctorates. The point isn't that Tank doesn't deserve one. The point is that honorary doctorates are an honor, not a credential, and Cheyenne Bryant calling herself a doctor of psychology when she has an honorary doctorate in master class studies is the exact move Tasha K pulled with the House, using something that exists technically to imply something that doesn't exist legally. Now finally, real quick, can we talk about Vivica Fox for a second? Sister came out and said the internet has been brutal about how she's aging. And she said, very honestly, I'm a woman of a certain age. The body changes. You're not going to be the same size you were when you were 19, 20 years old. People can say very mean things to you. But to age is a blessing and a beautiful thing. And she's right. Let me say this for the people in the back. Morgan Freeman has been walking around Hollywood looking 92 years old since he was 25 and not one of you has ever said a word. But the second a beautiful black woman in her 60s shows up looking like a normal 61-year-old human being, the comments section turns into a casting call for the second coming of Halle Berry circa 1996. Stop it. Halle Berry, who, by the way, is 60 years old right now, is still one of the most stunning women on the planet. Iman is about to turn 71 this year and looks like a hand-painted oil portrait. These women are not failing to be 20. They are succeeding at being themselves. So instead of typing a paragraph about how somebody's face has changed, put down the phone, walk into a bookstore, and buy a copy of How to Mind Your Business. It's a short read. Highly recommend. Bringing it all the way back home, because everything I just told you connects. Tasha K hiding behind a husband. Cheyenne hiding behind a scripture. Chef Mila hiding behind a screenshot. They are all running the same play. They are all building a shield out of something legitimate adjacent, hoping nobody looks too closely. And the lesson Cardi B is about to teach in federal court is the same lesson the internet has been teaching all week. You can build whatever wall you want around your assets, your credentials, or your story, but the moment someone with patience, paperwork, and a really good lawyer decides to walk around to the back, the whole shield is just decoration. Cardi's attorneys, the ones who are reportedly 8-0 in the courtroom, are framing this case as a classic fraudulent transfer action with an alter ego claim baked in. If they can prove Yelen Entertainment is the legal successor to Kebe Studios, and I genuinely cannot see how they don't, given that the transfer was for $0 between spouses, while a multi-million-dollar judgment was pending, and immediately followed by the dissolution of the original entity, then everything Cheick built up gets pulled back into the estate. The house. The bank accounts. The YouTube revenue. The cars. The chain. The belly ring. Everything. And Tasha and Cheick are going to find themselves with what we in the streets call his and hers judgments. Matching debt. Like a couple's tattoo, but federal. So listen, before I let you go, because I know you came here for the tea, but I want you to walk out smarter than you walked in, let me leave you with 3 things. 1. Never put your business in your spouse's name to dodge a creditor. The courts have been seeing that play for 150 years. They have a name for it, a statute for it, and a remedy for it. 2. Never go on the radio talking about how broke you aren't while telling a judge you're broke. The internet remembers. The court reporter remembers. Your lawyer's blood pressure remembers. 3. If you're going to play with somebody, do not play with somebody who built their career on hustling. Cardi B is from the Bronx. She's been hustling since high school. She turned a stripper pole flow into a Grammy. You cannot out-hustle a hustler. You can only delay the inevitable, and the delay is going to cost you $20,000 a month, every month, until the original debt is paid in full, plus interest, plus your husband's house, plus your lawyer's 10th fee that's also being paid directly to Cardi. Y'all, let me know in the comments below what you think about every single layer of this. Do you think Cheick really thought this husband shield was going to work? Do you think Tasha K is going to settle quietly now that her husband is named in a federal complaint? Do you think Cheyenne Bryant is going to keep doctoring herself with that honorary degree, or is she going to pivot to ministry full-time? Do you think Chef Mila is fishing for a civil case, or do you think she really just wants her $1,400 back? Because honestly, I could go either way. Tell me your theory. Tell me which side dish was your favorite. Tell me what you would do if you were Cardi's lawyer right now. And while you're down there typing, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so the algorithm knows we're cooking over here, and share this with the one friend in your group chat who still thinks Tasha K is winning this thing. Because she is not winning. She is one federal hearing away from owing her ex-blogger empire to a woman who calls her a cockatoo on Maine. And honestly, after everything I just walked you through, the cockatoo nickname might be the kindest thing Cardi ever does to her. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you very, very soon. Peace. Now before we get any deeper, I need you to understand the timeline of this whole husband transfer scheme, because the dates matter more than anything. Pay attention. The original jury verdict against Tasha K came down in January 2022. By September 2022, 8 months later, while Cardi's lawyers were still trying to enforce the judgment, Kebe Studios LLC suddenly and quietly transferred all of its business to Yelen Entertainment. 8 months. Not 8 years. Not in a sober planning moment 2 decades before any lawsuit. 8 months after a jury said you owe this woman almost $4 million. That timing alone is what lawyers call badges of fraud. That's a real legal term. The federal courts have a list of badges, actual factors a judge looks at when deciding whether a transfer was made to defraud creditors, and Tasha and Cheick checked almost every single box. Transfer to an insider. Check, the insider is her husband. Transfer for less than fair value. Check, the price was zero. Transfer made while a lawsuit was pending or a judgment was outstanding. Check, the judgment was actively being collected on. Debtor retained possession or use of the transferred property. Check, Tasha kept running the YouTube channel from the same desk, in the same house, with the same camera. Debtor became insolvent shortly after the transfer. Check, by the time bankruptcy hit in 2023, Kebe Studios looked like a ghost town on paper. Y'all, this is not a close call. This is a fraudulent transfer textbook with the chapter titles still highlighted in yellow. And let me say something else that nobody on the internet has connected yet. When Tasha sold the Lawrenceville house to her husband, that transaction had to be recorded with the Gwinnett County Clerk of Court. Public record. Anybody with $12 and a Wi-Fi connection can pull the deed. Cardi's lawyers absolutely already have a certified copy sitting in their evidence binder. They know the sale price. They know the closing date. They know whether any actual money exchanged hands or whether it was a quitclaim deed for a love and affection consideration. If it was a quitclaim for love and affection, and I have a strong feeling it was, because that's the cheapest, fastest way to move a house between spouses, then the entire defense Tasha and Cheick built collapses the moment that deed gets entered into evidence. There is no story that explains why a 5-bedroom house worth almost $1 million changes hands for love and affection while a federal judgment is hanging over the wife's neck. None. Not one. You cannot argue that one to a jury. The jury will laugh out loud. And speaking of juries, let me tell you something about the jury Cardi's team is going to pick for this trial. Federal civil cases like this one happen in front of regular people. Working people. People who pay their bills. People who file their own taxes. People who know what it feels like to write a check to the IRS even when they don't want to. Those jurors are going to walk in there, sit down, and listened to a lawyer explain that Tasha K made over $1 million on YouTube, owed Cardi B almost $4 million in damages for lying about her, then transferred her entire business to her husband for $0, sold her house to her husband for love and affection, kept living in the house, kept running the business, and then went on the radio laughing about how broke she wasn't. By the time the prosecution closes, those 12 jurors are going to be ready to award Cardi B additional damages just on principle. Not because Cardi needs the money, but because nobody likes being lied to. And the second any juror realizes Tasha K thought she could outsmart everybody, them included, that case is over before lunch. The verdict slip is going to come back so fast the bailiff is going to think the printer broke. Now I want to take a half-second detour because somebody in the comments last week asked me, source, why does Cardi care so much about this money? She's a millionaire. $40 million on tour production alone. $20,000 on belly rings. Why is she still chasing this? And the answer is the most important thing I'm going to say in this entire video. It's not about the money. It has never been about the money. It is about precedent. Cardi B is sending a message to every blogger, every YouTuber, every podcaster, every Twitter account with a Cash App link in the bio, if you lie on me, I will spend the next 10 years of my life dragging your finances into a courtroom. I will sue you. I will sue your husband. I will sue your LLC. I will sue your honorary doctorate if you have one. I will subpoena your GoFundMe records. I will pull your Postmates receipts. And by the time I'm done, your face is going to be the warning poster the next blogger looks at before they hit publish on a lie about me. That is not a financial calculation. That is a legacy calculation. Cardi is buying peace for her children. She is buying peace for Hennessy. She is buying peace for every future feature artist she works with. And the bill for that peace is being mailed directly to Tasha K's husband. $20,000 a month. Until further notice. And while we're talking about lessons, because I refuse to let you leave this channel without picking up something useful, let me give you the 3 rules of being a public figure with enemies, courtesy of every case I've ever covered on this show. Rule 1, when a judge tells you to stop talking, stop talking. There is no creative reading of stop talking that allows you to keep posting subtweets, podcast clips, Instagram live appearances, or radio interviews about the person you were told not to talk about. The word stop means stop. Rule 2, when your lawyer files a brief on your behalf, read the brief before it gets filed. Tasha K's lawyer filed citation errors that the court had to sanction. Those errors are now sitting in Tasha K's case file forever. If she had read her own brief, she could have caught it. Always read what your lawyer is putting your name on. Always. Rule 3, never, ever, ever do a victory lap before the appeals window closes. Tasha K got on the radio talking about how Cardi didn't drain her while a federal bankruptcy plan was actively being violated by her own social media presence. That radio interview is now Exhibit B in a federal contempt motion. You cannot victory lap during an active enforcement action. You sit down. You shut up. You let your lawyer talk. And if you absolutely must speak, you talk about the weather. That's it. Weather only. Let me also pull back for a second and remind everybody what the real cost of all this is. Tasha K has children. Cheick is the father of those children. Whatever financial empire they built, and don't get it twisted, $1 million in YouTube revenue over 4 years is a real empire by regular people's standards, was supposed to be a generational thing. Something the kids could inherit. Something the family could lean on when the streaming algorithm changed and the views dried up. And instead of protecting that empire through clean books, clean lawyers, and a clean settlement plan, the choice was made to hide it. To shuffle it. To wear it like a costume. And the consequence of that choice is that the kids are going to grow up watching their mother's federal court file get cited as a case study in every "How Not to Dodge a Creditor" article for the next decade. That's the actual cost. Not the $4 million. The legacy. The lesson on the family Wikipedia page. The thing the grandkids will Google when they're old enough to type. That's what's on the table. And Tasha K, instead of taking the painful but honorable route of paying the judgment over 5 years and rebuilding quietly, decided to gamble it all on a husband-shaped shield. And when the shield breaks, and it is breaking, in real time, in federal court, everything behind it gets exposed at once. The business. The house. The family planning. All of it. I also want to flag one more piece of this that's been overlooked. The bankruptcy court already confirmed Tasha's repayment plan in 2025. That's a binding court order, like the judge himself said. But the moment Tasha violated the order 25+ times, she didn't just trigger contempt sanctions. She also potentially triggered something called dismissal of the bankruptcy case for bad faith. If Cardi's team pushes for it, and they absolutely could, the entire Chapter 11 plan could be tossed in the garbage. Meaning the discount from $3.8 million to $1.2 million. Gone. The 5-year payment schedule. Gone. The cap on the debt. Gone. Tasha would be right back where she started in January 2022, owing Cardi B the full original judgment with interest, accumulated attorney's fees, and now a whole new federal lawsuit on top. That is not a hypothetical. That is a tool Cardi's lawyers have on their belt right now, and if Tasha keeps poking the bear, they will absolutely use it. The smartest move Tasha K could have made the day the bankruptcy plan was confirmed was to literally hand her phone to a publicist, change her passwords, and go live in a remote village in West Africa where the only thing she posts about is goats and sunsets. Instead she gave us a multi-platform world tour of contempt. And the bill is coming. Now, real quick, I want to circle back to one thing about Shy Charles and Chef Mila because I have been thinking about this all week and I need to say it out loud. The reason Cardi B name-dropped Shy Charles publicly and called her almost family is not casual. That was a strategic protection move. Once Cardi publicly labels someone as part of her inner circle, that person automatically falls under the umbrella of the agreement Tasha K was supposed to be following. Meaning if Chef Mila, or anyone connected to Stefon Diggs's defense, ever tries to bring Cardi B's name into a civil suit through Shy Charles, Cardi's legal team has a paper trail showing that Shy Charles has been treated as family adjacent for months. That makes Shy Charles a protected party. That makes any defamation about Shy Charles, by Tasha K, by Chef Mila, by anybody, a potential additional violation. Cardi B doesn't talk for no reason. Every Instagram caption, every podcast quote, every public statement she makes about her people is doing legal work in the background. That is what real lawyer-coached messaging looks like. And it is one of the reasons her attorneys keep going 8-0 in the courtroom. The plaintiff is doing pre-discovery on Instagram every single week. Last thing before I let you go, because somebody is going to ask in the comments, what happens to Yelen Entertainment specifically if Cardi wins this round? 3 things. First, Yelen's bank accounts become subject to garnishment, meaning any YouTube ad revenue, brand deal payment, or sponsorship deposit hitting those accounts gets intercepted at the source. Second, any contracts Yelen has signed, podcast deals, merch agreements, brand partnerships, could be assigned to Cardi as a creditor, which means Cardi technically becomes a partial beneficiary of every dollar Tasha K's brand earns going forward until the judgment is satisfied. Third, and this is the spicy one, the court can appoint a receiver to literally run Yelen Entertainment on behalf of the creditor. A receiver is a court-appointed person who takes operational control of a business, manages its income, and pays out the proceeds to the judgment holder. So picture this, a federal receiver, in a suit, sitting in Tasha K's house, monitoring her uploads, approving her brand deals, and writing a check to Cardi B every Friday. That is a real legal outcome. That is on the menu. And if Tasha keeps fighting instead of settling, that is exactly the lunch she is up.